Songs are trippy. Hi guys, this is Lorraine Lopez loves this week Nolan Culver, who is here is the face to the voice, which doesn't even make sense because
the face to the voice.
Yes, because you guys are gonna see a clip on my Instagram and YouTube.
If they really were inquisitive, they could have found me by now.
So, well. Here he
They're not
is.
that. They're not. They don't care that much.
They
Is the
care.
point? They were waiting for you to put it out.
This is the day.
Okay.
He's Nolan Culver
What's
is
up?
Comedian and co-founder, producer of Third Wheel Podcast Studio.
Yup.
Yes.
Headband wearer.
Mm-hmm. Skateboarder. Right?
Yup. Shredder. See my kicks.
Yeah, it's for the video, guys.
I was like,
Watch the video.
skate. This is my Vans. I'm just proving it. My skate cred.
Are those?
What's up, Rain?
Not much. Just
What's up, Raindrop?
not much going on. Just after like getting back into my groove after the holidays.
You gotta get back in the groove. It takes a second.
It does. I do feel the pressure. Like this week, I'm like, go to bed early, get up, and make sure you eat something healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole different psycho. I don't know if it's like. I mean, it's always different from like vacation versus real life. Mm-hmm. But you kind of grew up near LA, but I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's like there's a whole different psychology. Like the fact that I go from LA to back home. Mm-hmm. It's like not just as a vacation. It's not even just that I'm working. I'm back to work. It's like even a way of thinking. It's back home. Everything is just completely. Nobody's operating on the same stuff, not thinking about the same shit. Like I feel like in LA everybody's like there's just sort of a hustle mentality that I guess I hate that word though. I hate hustle. I hate the word hustle.
Really?
It's just a corny word, and I hate that I said it.
I love the word hustle.
Oh really?
I do. I say it, and I do feel that from other people that they like hustle because it seems like it's bad, like it's negative in a way of like, are you stealing? Are you like
like a hustler?
Yes.
No, I just it gets old from like motivators or entrepreneurs being like hustle.
Oh, okay.
It gets like it's just the hashtag thing, like hashtag hustle, hashtag grind. Like me and my buddy used to joke about that.
Gonna hashtag
like
this.
Yeah, if you were
Hustle.
just taking a picture of you like watching TV and be like hashtag hustle, like it's always that hashtag hustle, hashtag grind. So anyways, it does take a second to get back into the mix. Mm-hmm. You know, back in the swing.
I don't enjoy sleeping over places or other people's places.
You don't like sleepovers?
I do not.
Oh, really?
I love just being in my bed, or if I'm on vacation, it's fine. Like I have to do it. But so even going to my parents, they live an hour east of LA, and it's been probably over a year since I spent the night. And this Christmas, I spent the night for 2 nights. And the weird thing is, it was like, why don't I do this? It really is a whole new euphoric feeling of like, you leave and you're just like, oh, I needed that.
Oh, you like staying the night?
I didn't think I did. But when I do it, I force myself. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I don't get more relaxed.
Yeah. Wait, you don't get more relaxed than when you stay the night?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you need like a night away. I mean, it's like a vacation. Do you take vacations?
I do, but most of the time it's not relaxing.
I gotta move this away from your face a little bit. I gotta position that better. Otherwise, everyone's like, I can't see his. And that's the point, Lorraine. It's the whole point.
That is the point. But you grew up not too far from me.
Yeah, kind of. So until I was like 13, I lived in that town. Little town called Wrightwood. It's a little snowboard town, which is so funny because it's like so close to right where nobody knows that town. It's so close. It's literally, if you turn around when you're in Rancho, you turn around and there's those mountains.
Yeah.
It's like in those mountains.
So how far of a drive is that?
From Rancho Cucamonga, probably like 45 minutes maybe. But as the crow flies, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you just were able to go right on the other side of those mountains, which you can't. But yeah, it's close. Yeah.
Nice. But you moved to Seattle.
Hella nice. Yeah. Yeah, when I was 13.
And how did you like that?
When I didn't move to Seattle, I moved to this like little town outside of Seattle, but you say Seattle because nobody knows. It was cool. It was a weird experience because I grew up California and Seattle are like, well, small town California, Southern California is basically like, I felt like it was like surf skate culture. Everybody was surfing, skating, or at least wearing that type of stuff. Like that was the whole vibe.
Yeah.
Everybody was into that, extreme sports vibe, rollerblades. How old are you?
Oh, I'm old. We
don't talk about that?
No.
Oh, is that the safe word?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Well, I'm 84 years old.
Okay.
And but anyways, yeah. So I was just going to see if you could relate to what kids wore. Like brands and stuff. Because that was a big thing when you're a kid. Brands is a big deal. The brands
it was like
the
skateboarder shoes. Like, I forget. I don't know the name. Like DC.
Yeah.
Etnies.
Right?
Yeah.
Etnies was a big one. Yeah. So that was just because I feel like, and maybe I was too shallow because I was a kid, but I feel like that's a big identifier when you're in, and I moved in middle school, and that's a big time, like what you're wearing, and you're trying to figure all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was all decked out for like SoCal culture. When I moved to Washington, it was like a small town outside of Washington, and it was a true like hick town. They had farms, they had cows, they had all that shit. And people wore Carhartts, which I had never heard of. Do you know what that is?
No.
All right, that's like basically workers wear. I mean, we're talking like overalls. Like I remember there was a kid that showed up to school with a white T-shirt and dirty overalls, and he was popular. And I was like, I don't get any of this. And then like the not farmy type kids, the not hick type, they wore like Eddie Bauer and Gap. That was the shit.
Interesting.
And it was like, for me, it was like I hated them as much as they hated me. Like we just.
And you were the only kid wearing that stuff, and they're like, "Who is this guy?"
So all the kids that wore skate stuff were total. They were just like losers. They were just the only people that skated for the most part in that town were like outcast kids. Like it was like a group of little like kids that nobody liked that were a little like they had bad home lives. It wasn't normal.
Them like rebelling was
like fuck the system, and then they had like spiky hair and big fat pants, Jinkos.
Well, I guess I kind of do feel because I went to Ontario High School, and it was kind of gangster, but like there was the skateboarders that were kind of like rebels, like kind of. So they do have that kind of. And then I would wear that too, though. Roxy.
But Roxy was like regular cool. It wasn't rebellious.
Yeah, no, I was pretty mellow. I was in a band. I wasn't rebelling.
You were in a band?
No, I was in the marching band.
It's such a huge difference.
You're like, whoa, I didn't know that.
Whoa, that is so funny. Yeah. I've never thought about what a huge difference that word marching does to being in a band.
A great marcher.
You did this?
With my
or is that drill team?
That's drill team. But in the marching band though, I would play the flute, and then you would do like halftime shows.
Yes.
So then there was moments.
I just realized what I just asked a really dumb question. that was such a stupid question.
Yes, this.
Yeah, Nolan, you fucking pump your arm with instruments. I was just thinking drill team for some reason in my head.
You're kind of right.
You do?
You do. You use it like you would do. Like there was things where you go like this. Like you would use it as like because you're in the field
while you play.
Yeah, you are when you're not playing and other people are playing, and then like okay, now the flutes now do. Like
so you would do some pumping.
You could.
Okay.
There is something there. You didn't care enough to know, but it's something you saw. Like you remember, there's a vision back in the back of your mind.
There's odd movements. They're not just playing.
Yeah,
that was
You would do like weird things with your body. You'd play while you're like moving and going up and down and up. It's weird. And it's very mathematical with your stepping, and you have to be like 100 steps going this way. And
that's cool. Yeah. I kind of like it. There's a lot of things that I thought I was too cool for that I wasn't. But I wish I had done. I wish I'd have embraced more like stuff that I thought only dorks did, like marching band, drama. I wish I'd have embraced that shit. But it's like you're too insecure to be able to like just embrace the things you might like because you're like those people aren't the cool ones.
Yeah.
I think I was a little too obsessed with that.
I did fall out of it because I was in band from I think elementary to my junior year in high school, and I quit band my senior year of high school because I started kind of talking to a football player.
Yeah.
And I remember in junior year in the band, and he was like out there, and I was like, I'm like so not cool. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I quit, and I always like regret that. Thinking,
really?
Like I did it because I didn't feel cool.
Yeah.
And really, band was one of the funnest things that I ever did in my life, that it's so memorable for me.
Right.
So I'm like, missed a year of band.
Yeah. That's such bullshit, man. I feel like when I have kids, that'll be something I try to help them with. It's like I'm gonna try to make sure you're not worried about whether you feel cool or not, to whatever degree. Actually, that's probably gonna make it way worse if your dad's like, "It's cool, don't worry about it, keep going." They're like, "Dad, you're making it way worse."
Yeah. Well, my dad thought it was cool. He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna play the flute like I did," and I was like, "Okay, Dad."
Yeah.
So,
That's a good dad.
Yeah, I guess so. But he thought it was cool. So, yeah, I guess that is cool.
You just start crying. Yeah, I guess it is. I guess he is a good dad.
Thank you so much. So, how did you always want to do comedy, or how did you get into that?
My dad made me. No, I'm just joking. No, I did it. No, I did not think I was ever going to be a comedian. That came out of left field, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I grew up like poor, white trash, and so I was just more concerned my whole childhood. I had an idea I just wanted to be middle class. We were talking about Rancho. I used to fantasize about middle class. I used to fantasize my mom would get a minivan, we'd have a 3-bedroom house, I'd have a dad that goes to work because we didn't have that, like those little things. So that was my obsession, was more that. It was weird. I kind of was obsessed with getting to the middle for up until literally college. And then I went to college and things got crazy for me because I was on my own, and I kind of had a midlife crisis at 18. Everything just fell apart in the freshman year, and I became a hardcore Christian in college, like mega Christian. Yeah, right when everybody's starting to go crazy and go like, let's go fuck, let's go party, and I was the exact opposite.
So like not even with your family, it was just your own thing.
My own thing. I didn't grow up in it. Because I grew up like my I think the weird thing is that I grew up around a lot of drugs, and I grew up around and I wasn't really ever given any boundaries. Like nobody I was like the opposite of if you were raised religious. Nobody told me to do anything. I had very little parental supervision like my whole life. So by the time I got to college, like I wasn't trying to rebel against anything. I was still, the weird thing was I was trying to rebel, but I needed to rebel against what I had, which was no structure, no rules, no idea of how to be.
Yeah.
So ironically, it led me to like the most organized moral thing. That's what seemed crazy to me at the time. So while everybody else was kind of experimenting because they were raised with boundaries, I was like, I need boundaries. That was like kind of how it worked out. So I got way into it.
Interesting.
Mega Christian.
And how long did that last for?
Pretty much all of college, and then maybe a year and a half or two out of college, it kind of started to fade out. I started to like mature out of it because it just gave me a foundation for how to understand the world. Because at its basics, Christianity is really a foundation of ideas that even all of Western society is built on. It's not really, it is a religion, but at the foundation, there's just some ideas of how to operate. Being kindness, like self-discipline, these are all in there. So you might be taught that by a parent that's not even using religion, but the ideas are still in those religions. So but I was fanatical. I was like a preacher. That's how I got into like talking in front of people. I was preaching a lot. I realized I was good at talking in front of people because of that. And then, so then it just faded off just because you realize it's ridiculous. Like some of it's ridiculous and you can't be in it for too long without thinking about it, you know? So it's like baby bathwater. There's still some stuff I still like from that time in terms of ideas, but there's a lot of bathwater that I got rid of after that. Yeah.
And when did you get married in this time frame?
I got married. Well, I met my wife. I guess I met my wife. This is crazy to think about now that I think about it. I met my wife 6 months after I graduated
college.
Met her. Yeah, and I met her. I didn't marry her, obviously.
Okay.
I didn't marry her then.
So after you were done with this Christian stuff, like
I was still kind of in it.
Okay.
I was still in it. Yeah. I just
super interesting.
Yeah. So I met her. I got a job at a restaurant in Bellevue, which is in Washington. It's like right outside of Seattle, and so this restaurant was like perfect for like anybody. It was like all young people, and it's called Earl's, and they're like a Canadian chain. They're super successful, but they don't have a ton of restaurants in America. Mm-hmm. But anyways, their whole model is very obvious. It's hire like attractive, beautiful young women. That's their whole thing. And then the guys have to be personality guys or models, and I was a personality guy. So, but the numbers are like 5-1. On the front house, like it's like all chicks, and then most of the dudes are in the kitchen or they're like a couple bartenders, and I was one of the, and then a couple servers. I was a server and then a bartender. Anyways, I was surrounded. I was 23, mega Christian, surrounded by gorgeous girls, and they were all really cool. Actually, not all of them were really cool. Some of them were awful, but it was a weird time because it was like I wasn't on the hunt like that because I was still Christian minded.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And but I was looking for a girl. The right girl, and she was just spectacular. Like she was just like, can't even I could get into it. It's it's that classic thing, like smitten. She was this is in a sea of beautiful young women.
So she works there too?
She got a job as a hostess, yeah.
Okay.
And I was all these pretty girls. It was really weird because everything else about them is what stood out to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because everybody was young and pretty. Mm-hmm. So I was like, and she just was. I remember everybody would kind of get changed and change their clothes after in this back area. And all the girls a lot of them were like glammy types and sassy bitches. Like that's not my steez. That's not how nothing against that, but it's just not always what I found attractive. And she, one of the first, I didn't know her that well, but she was back there changing and she put on Vans. And I was like, game changer. This chick, like because again in Washington, people don't. It's not like as much of a style as it is in California. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, I see what's up. And yeah,
wow.
I think I took her on a date like 3 months later, and then it was off. We were off to the races. So.
Oh, and how long did you date before you got married?
Dating a year, engaged a year.
Nice.
Married.
Wow.
Bang bang. 2 years.
You just knew. You're like.
Yeah. 100%.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Whew.
Yeah. You're hiding behind that mic too much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, be careful.
Okay.
If you see yourself leaning, yeah.
I try not to look at that. I think.
Oh, don't look at that.
Oh.
But if you see the mic in front of you too much, like that means they can't see us.
Okay.
Anyway.
So then where
try to match
did
the headband with the light.
Oh yeah.
I got these as a gift from my friend Golan. Do you know Golan? She works at the Improv.
No, but I do know her from the podcast.
Yeah. She gave me a bunch of these.
Oh, those are cool. Yeah. Love the tie-dye.
Well, it's because I do this podcast in here with a couple of friends where I wear a blue bandana. So she wanted to give me a bunch of different bandanas. So
that's nice.
Thanks, Golan.
So when did you start doing comedy? Like how did that with the church talking and preaching?
Yeah. That came up because I was after after college I like bartended and stuff, and I thought I was going to be a youth pastor. That's what I was going for. And I'm trying to like condense the story, but so then I realized like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do a youth pastor. I don't really want to be that much a part of church. That's where it all started to change. I realized like I really just like talking in front of people. I think I have verbal skills. I started to think more like, what else could I do with that? And then my dad's like, it's complicated. He's basically like a con man / salesman. So he's good at talking. And then my grandpa's a salesman. So I thought, all right, I'll be a sales guy. I'm probably going to be. So I got into selling insurance, which was awful, as bad as it sounds, but I was good at it. And so I did that for 2 years. It was hell. And during that time, as kind of like when I thought pretty hard, I was like, oh, because like I said, like the middle class was sort of the dream. Mm-hmm. And at that job, I kind of did it. I had just got married. About a year into working there, we got married. And we had like a nice apartment in a really nice area. I was making great money. And everything was sort of nice. Like I had always, like in my head, sort of pictured adulthood could be. Like kind of middle class, steady, decent money. And I was just miserable. And because prior to that, I had no structure. Life was always chaotic. And I think that, you know, you kind of like, you get used to that. You kind of like that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I, basically just through a series of just thinking about it real hard, just thought like, what else would I want to do? And then I remember my buddies, I have a couple of crazy friends that were like, we're going to write a script and move to Hollywood. That was their idea. It was that naive. And you know, Joey Cruz, he works at the Improv. We ended up being like, all right, let's all like try to be let's try to make YouTube videos and make it like Workaholics. You know, Workaholics. We're like, let's just do sketches and stuff. We're all
Cucamonga, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And so it started with that because them two were like, let's actually try to do this. And I was like, I would love to. That's right. That's my jam. Me and my little brother are always making sketches. So I was like, let's totally do that. And then a year of sort of doing that, and then in group stuff is like really, it's impossible. Group stuff is really hard to do, like to make work, just because of everybody's work ethic and all that and ideas. So then me and Joey, who is a door guy at the Improv, best buddies since high school, we kind of were the ones that stuck with it. And because the group thing was harder to do, we're like, let's do stand up. You know, we want to do comedy of some sort. So let's go try stand up. It's more, you know, individual. You can just get it done. And so that's what we did. Started stand up. I was 27.
Wow. And then you moved here when you're 27.
No, started in Seattle when I was 27.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. How was the comedy scene over there?
In Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
It's good, solid. You know, some open mics. You know, got a couple clubs. I think it's great. Yeah, it was a great place to come up. It was not. It was almost like kind of the perfect place to come up. You know, it has. It's funny. It has its like because of the demographic, because of the whole vibe, the ideology of that city being hyper liberal progressive, and with a little bit more stank on it than California. California's hyper progressive, but Seattle's something else, man. They're like next level, edge progressive. So because of that, it makes comedy weird, as we all know. Hyper liberal is not very funny. Yeah. So it made me a better writer because they hated performy types. You know what I mean? Like LA showboaties.
Yeah.
But they also stifle a lot of creativity. Like if it's anything remotely smelling like it's, you know, misogynistic or whatever, then they're just gonna hate you. So even if you're funny in that way, like a Bill Burr, it's gonna be really hard to come up there and actually get out a real piece of good material that way in front of those people. So that was the only downside. But it was a good scene.
How long were you out there for? I might do a White Claw.
Yeah, rip it up. I get it, man. I'm boring. We need to get hammered to make this interesting.
No, not at all. I mean, why not?
Yeah. Dude, I've been day drinking way too much.
It's like a mental relaxation for me.
Yeah.
You know?
But you probably don't. I feel like you're like the type of person that doesn't get hammered that often.
No, I don't. But that's also probably the part of the problem. Maybe it's because I drink recreationally, or I don't get hammered. I do sometimes. Betsy Cox, if you guys know Betsy Cox, every time I'm with her and I'll be like, oh my God, I was so drunk last night. And she'll be like, you were?
Oh, really?
And then people think she's drunk all the time and she doesn't drink.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're like, Betsy was drunk. And I was like, no, she's sober.
Yeah, that's a really cool, that's a good trait to be able to seem high or drunk in public. Because what they're saying is you're having as much fun as we are. You know?
Oh, for sure.
Why aren't you? And we need that. We need to drink to have as much fun as you're having. So I remember that.
Is a trait.
It's a great trait. Yeah. It's almost like, it's tough, man. Is she like sober, or is she nothing like that?
No, it's just when she drinks, she gets sleepy. So she doesn't.
Oh, really?
It does the opposite effect for her.
Oh, that's funny.
And she also has ADD. That's not probably the way you say it anymore, but ADHD. But so they would prescribe her, what is it called? The stuff that makes you hyper, gives you energy.
Ritalin.
No, probably like a little less than that.
Adderall. Oh, yeah.
And Adderall makes her like really sleepy and tired, and the opposite of what it does to me. You know?
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's great. That's a fun personality.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm a little jealous.
I'm definitely, I like, that's why socially sometimes I drink to just give me like a little like, all right, chill
Pick
out.
me up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
A
do.
little energy.
I used to pray before I went to parties in college
Oh.
because I wanted to still be social, and I was likable enough, even though I was like mega Christian. I'd still get invited to stuff. Not that often, but sometimes. And and I would pray because I would like, well, first of all, I thought I was gonna go convert them, so that was big. So I would like mentally prep for that, but I wasn't out there preaching the whole time. But I thought like, I'm gonna be a light. I'm gonna be an example. But anyways, I guess without realizing it, what I would do is psych myself up to go have fun, to be an example that you can. It was almost
without
like
drinking and all that stuff. Interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of miss that. That's why I was saying it's cool that Betsy can do it, because I don't have as much purpose. I'm not like going into a social interaction trying to save the world, so there's way less of that intention. So now I'll do the same thing. Like I'll drink just because, why not? But I really miss like the ability to like know you're gonna go out, and not only know you're not gonna drink, but have it in your head, I'm gonna have as much fun, if not more, than the rest of them. I used to think that way. I kind of miss that.
I also think it's just the act of holding something and sipping on something.
Yeah, but then you could just get something non-alcoholic.
Well, because there was a point where I would just like try not to drink, so I would drink soda water, and it was fine, and I was like, oh, this is just me. I feel it's weird. I always have to be drinking something.
Well, that's good. I agree with that. You should do that.
That's why I have 3 drinks right now.
It's weird.
Like I need more drinks.
I'm with you on that. I do that with coffee. Same thing. Like the oral. That for sure. It gives you something to do. Gives you something to do with your hands. That old joke. I think that's so funny. That old joke on the Talladega Nights. Do you remember that movie with Will Ferrell?
Yeah, I don't remember the joke though.
Oh, he was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. He's getting interviewed, and his hands just start coming up into frame. He's like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And it's like that's like it's almost like a cliche joke. You know what I mean? It's like it's been made so much since then. But if I think back, it's like that's such a funny fucking observation. Like in life, you don't know what to do with your hands.
Maybe it's definitely that.
All the time.
I always think about it on the podcast. I'm like,
and when you're standing up, if you're standing up in a social circle, trying to manage your hands is horrifying sometimes. Especially if you start thinking about your hands, game over. It's like I got to go take a bathroom break, because now I'm like, I'm gonna be fidgeting. I'm gonna be leaning on stuff. I'll be half in, half out. What
do you do with stand-up? What's your go-to?
With my hands? Yeah. Sometimes I notice now, because I hate mic holding technique. I hate that. I hate that some people, you can tell they've thought about how to hold the mic. That bothers me a lot. I don't like that people, like, you can tell when somebody watches, Louis not so much anymore, but I remember when I was coming up, Louis was the guy in 2014. So everybody was holding it like Louis. Anyways, that starts to bother me. But so I don't think about it. I just hold it. But lately I've been noticing, like, I'm like doing stuff with my hands, like sort of, I'm like, I'll be talking like this, and I'll be holding the mic like with this, with these doing a lot of action, and I'll see it while I'm talking, and it'll really distract the shit out of me. I'm like, put your hands back. Yeah. So no, I don't know what I'm doing. On stage, I don't think about my hands. That's a place where there's enough going on in my brain and my body that I'm distracted. But regular interaction, I don't know if you can relate to that, but sometimes it's like I'm panicking over what my body's doing. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I struggle with it more on stage.
Oh, really?
I think just recently, just because the last show that I did, I think I hadn't performed in a while. It's been like I'm in a show here like once a week, but there was like a good 2 weeks and like that of just nothing, and it wasn't even doing mics. I was just like laying low, you know, and I went on stage and I had my hand on my hip the whole time, and I was like this, and then someone took pictures of me, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But I remember being up there, but I felt like this feels good. I don't know why this.
Oh, really?
I knew it didn't look good, but it felt good.
I do this a lot sometimes now.
You just hold yourself up
like this,
straight.
Just kind of yeah. And for no reason. I don't think about it much. I remember when I first started doing stand up, I would think about physicality on stage, and it would like when you're kind of new to stand up, you're like a baby. You don't know what you're doing, so you're trying everything.
Yeah.
And I tried impressions. I tried one-liners. I'm a storyteller. I'm a truth teller.
Yeah.
I'm hyper clever. I'm physical. I tried everything. I tried alti shit. Like I'm gonna do an obscure sort of idea that it's not even is barely comedy. I tried almost everything. And one of them I tried, but this is when I was like, I'm not a physical comedian. Like I'm not, my money is not going to be made on stage by being like, the funny is not with my body and stuff. It's got to be with my words and ideas. And the body can just help a little bit. When I remember is like, I just, I used to like think about it and plan moves, and it would just be so awkward and clunky. And I would be like telling a story, and it's like, and you ever be driving? And I'm like, trying to add action like a Dane Cook thing, and it'd be terrible. And then I was watching a buddy of mine one night, and he was like, he's also not a great physical guy. You can tell he's not a comfortable person, but he is funny. Mm-hmm. But you could tell he also wanted to be more physical. And I was watching him one night and you could tell he practiced this like set of moves you could just tell he practiced it in the mirror, and it bombed. And I was just like, ugh. So now I try, like, I don't think about it. I try to never think about what I'm doing with my body. It will ruin it.
What did you find what is your style now that you did all of the styles?
Dude, you know what it is? It's exactly a little bit what I am. Mm-hmm. It's like just on the left side of normal.
Okay.
Like, I think most people would see, like, there's a basic white guy, pretty personable, probably not much to him. But then a little bit of digging, you realize like, oh, there's a lot going on in there. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what I think I do. I come across very basic and white guy, and then I think some of my ideas get a little darker and a little weirder. Like I have some friends that are sort of the basic down the middle fun white guy, and I'm just whatever they are. I'm like 2 steps to the left. But I'm still a little bit like just telling jokes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's what I found is I'm not over in any extreme lane or whatever, if that makes sense.
Do you talk about, like, your life or, like, religion and that kind of stuff at all? Mm-hmm. Or, and you're, like, do you talk about your wife, too, on your stage? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talk about all those things, yeah. But,
okay, cool.
But I don't do anything. I guess what I'm saying is, like, how you could be, I don't know, there's so many different ways to be funny. You could be a one-liner like that. You could be super, I don't know, like, hyper, abstract and conceptual. Like, have you ever seen what's his name? Fudge. Funky Fudge.
Big Fudge.
What is that guy's name?
I do know
Brent Weinbach.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
You know how like Brent Weinbach is something when you watch him? You're like, oh, that's a lane. He's in a lane.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like if you don't obviously
like Rory Scovel.
Rory, that's a lane. That's a whole style that you kind of know if you're there. Like, I can do that. That's my thing. It's like I'm not Rory. I'm not Brent. You know what I mean? I'm like somewhere closer to the middle of just a joke teller. Like, honestly, and this is way too much of a compliment, but it's the best comparison, or it's easiest because it's like a Mulaney or a Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. Like if you look what they're doing, it's really really good. But it's not hyper off to the side and obscure, abstract, or conceptual. They're just they're telling jokes, and they're telling it differently from each other. But like Mulaney's more of a storyteller, Seinfeld's more of a hard craft joke teller. But still, it's what I mean. It's more towards the middle of what comedy is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good example with Rory. He's exactly what I'm not, or what I'm not even close to. Because he's way over here. He's so goofy and physical, and then he does weird shit and. You know what I mean? He's obscure and
definitely alternative.
Alternative, yeah.
I struggled with that so much because I am what I am in my comedy, which is storytelling and awkward and not cool, but just kind of like self-deprecating. Yeah. And I try, like, I feel like I know what people want me to be. Like in my head, I'm like, oh, they want me to be this. Cool, this, and I don't know what they want, but like I've tried so many things, and there's even moments where like, oh, but I could do this, maybe be more alternative, and then I could like the same thing where I'm like, I should try, and I've been trying to change my writing to like, well, now I'm gonna do this whole piece about blood avocados and make it super cool. And then it comes back to it. I'm like, but that's not, I can't do it. It's like I want to do it so bad, but it's not me. And it's like, it's just me being real and being myself and telling.
What makes you want to do it? When you say I want to do it, what's that part?
I think it's because maybe that's what I like.
Yeah, right?
You know, so maybe I'm like, I love watching that. But then also, if I really think about it, what I started watching, what I like the most is like, I think that's what I think is so smart. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, but the people that I relate to is like Ali Wong talking about her husband. Mm-hmm. Talking about, you know.
So there's the difference between what you like and what you relate to? Is that what you mean?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love Ali Wong, and I think it's great. But when I'm really like, if I watch Rory, I'm like I'm dying, hurting, crying. But when I watch Ali, I'm like, oh, this is good, and I like this, and this is what I relate to, and I could write. I feel like more connected to this.
Right.
But that is like, I want to like be outside of the box so crazily. But also, you kind of are when you're telling your own personal stuff.
Well, the reason I asked is because what I've noticed so far is that everybody's like that. So like I've noticed like really good physical I have friends that are like really funny physical. Yeah. Like a lot of the comedy is literally in the movement. It's not the idea is there to support the real punchline is how you moved, like how you made a weird noise and stuff. And I've always wanted to do that because I always thought like same thing, like I think I find that the funniest. That's what makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But what I noticed though is that I'll be like, oh, I kind of wish, and they'll come to me and talk about some of my joke writing. They'll just be like, oh, I like how you, because I just lean on what I think I could be good at, or what I feel more natural doing. It's not even that I'm that great at it, but it's not what they're that good at. So they always are a little complimenting that part. Yeah. Like if they saw me do something physical, they'd be like, whatever. But if they saw me write a tight joke that worked,
exactly.
to me, I'd be like,
you're not what. Yeah.
If it's the opposite or a little bit not what you are, you're going to appreciate it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I think that's exactly that.
And it just takes a while to realize that, because when you are new, you have no idea what you even are comfortable with at all. So you're only trying things you like. And some of the things you like are because you relate to, like Ali. Some things you like just because they make you laugh, and so you try it all, and then you realize like, oh, when I do that, it feels weird. But there's almost no other way to figure it out, I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess some people come in just so knowing who they are that they don't need to fuck with all that, but I think it's pretty rare. Like Pete Davidson, I feel like is like that. Pete Davidson's a guy I feel like, you know, he's a teenager, and it seems like he has a good idea of how he wants of how to come across. Like he just And but yeah, I think it's rare. You know, I don't think everybody can figure that out without embarrassing yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, that's what it's been the funk that I feel like I'm in is because I'm trying to create material that's not me. And I'm like, this isn't working, but I'm like, yeah, because this is not what I naturally, when you started doing things, it was just so you and comfortable, and like you know, and you just have to really embrace that and kind of like. So
you think you were pretty like natural out the gate? Like you feel like what you were doing right out the gate is like, oh, that's pretty good for
when
me.
I look back, I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like this. I keep moving away from what I was good at doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's almost like that's like a great thing, because that means you already have a foundation of what to go back to. I feel like that's almost even a little bit safer, you know? Like you already have like, I don't know, man.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that sounds pretty rad.
No, it sounds like I don't know. It just sounds like you already have like, it's like you already have like a good amount of money, but you want to go like invest. You have extra money, so you're going to go invest in something that's super risky, and you might lose all that extra money, but you already have, but you're okay. You have some money. You know what I mean? You have a foundation to stand on. It's what I think it's. I think that's good.
It was also a time in my life where I was like, I don't give a shit. So
in the beginning,
so I'm like, did not care. I would tell you everything you wanted to know. So it was
such a good place to be in.
So honest.
I don't know if I've ever been there. How do you do that? I think
guess
I've always cared a little.
I didn't care. I didn't know anyone in comedy. I honestly wasn't trying to date anyone. Nothing in me was like, I don't care. This is my life and I'm going to put it out there. And now that's what I'm trying to figure out now is, getting into which is
Are you still
in a relationship.
Tied up?
I still am, but I am always scared every week that I'm going to get broken up with. I'm not going to lie. Every week I'm like,
I think that's great. I think it's so I think one of the most exciting things about having a podcast is if you're psychopaths like us, is that you actually have people paying attention to the story.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's so funny and awesome. Like, I always was a little jealous. Like, I always wanted we do podcasts. I have a studio. I always wanted a big one, a good one, so that I always liked how you could see, like, Pete Holmes, you know that dude? Do you know Pete Holmes? He has a great podcast. Yeah. You could see him sort of changing over the course of the podcast. You could see, like, 3 years go by and all these big things happen in his career. Same thing with all these other people. Even Rogan. Like, you look at Rogan as a human being from episode, like, 50 to now, it's insane. It's like it's
crazy.
So I always thought that was a really fun way to go about life. Like I said, that's kind of insane. That sounds like probably a nightmare to some people. Like, all these people watching you develop.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of fun because, like, you might have this breakup and everybody got to watch you talk about it and be all nervous about. Everybody got to watch you, like, get together with them and all the process that was, and then maybe in like 6 months it's a big breakup and they're watching you deal with it. And I'm not saying it will be. I'm saying, if worst case scenario, it's like you have all these people who are going to learn something from the reality show that is this experience that you're going through, and it's all very real for you. It's even more real than reality show. Like, it's really interesting if you think about it, because, like,
it definitely is. But it's scary because I do feel like I have recently had conversations with him where he is such a private person. So I'm wondering, like, what can I talk about? Like, I don't want to not be able to talk about my life. Which he at first had a problem with it. Now I was like, okay, it's fine. Just don't talk about anything that can, like, really hurt me or something. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hurt you. And I also don't want him to think, which he did bring it up, which anyone would, because if you listen to my comedy, I did talk a lot about dating.
Yeah.
Very openly. So I'm sure any guy dating me would be a little concerned that I talk shit about him. Which I don't talk shit about them. It's self-deprecating to myself most of the time.
Well, if you're dating a comedian, he's dating a podcaster, but if you're dating a comedian, you have to know that you're going to be in their material. And if you don't think, if you're not on board with that, it's not good.
There's something weird about it, though, and he's not going to listen to this episode. He hates a lot of the stuff that I do, in the sense of, like, just in general, like, he's into documentaries and, like,
he's a serious guy.
Yeah. But it's like, if you don't like all these things, you dated the wrong person.
So what's interesting, though, and I'm not trying to say that it will end. It could be the greatest love story of all time. But if it does, then I just think it's interesting, because it's like, we can't experience life, like, from a disassociated way emotionally. We have to be in it. But if we could always pull back and be like, this is a movie. And the crazier it is, the more dramatic it is, the more difficult it is, truly the more interesting it is if in the end I make it and I learn something. It's like a movie. It's always good if a bunch of shit happens and then you're you're okay, and you are usually. You rarely die. Like, people rarely die from all the problems. Like, you die at the end is kind of the point.
Yeah.
Maybe you die earlier, but hopefully not. But you won't die from this.
No.
So that's the point, is that you'll and again, it's easier to be clinical and thoughtful from the outside. You're always going to be in the pain of the experience, but it is still, what'll happen in theory is maybe you guys will break up and then you'll learn a lot and you'll talk about it, and then that'll be useful to you and everybody listening, and then the next person. Do you watch Black Mirror, that show?
I have a couple episodes.
There's an episode, I love that show's amazing. I got into it way late. recently. And but there's an episode where like there's these people are in this dating program that's like a simulation, but they don't. But the characters in the simulation don't know.
Okay.
And basically what happens is in the real world, they run through 1,000 simulations with 1,000 different types of people through this program, and there's a certain way to show that you're the right fit if a certain series of outcomes happen a certain amount of times. And the whole point is to kind of show, like, I don't want to ruin a spoiler alert, I guess, if you care. But basically the point is that in the simulation, the yous that you are have to break out of the simulation, have to desire to fight the program, because in the program there's all these rules to keep you apart. If you start to like each other, they create more rules to keep you apart in the simulation. And the whole idea is that you fight harder and harder to get back to the person and then break out of the simulation. And if you do that so many times in the simulation, with all these different scenarios, you've proven that you're incredibly compatible because you desire each other, which is the whole, and that's kind of the whole point. It's that there's a magnetism, and it's not just, sexual or whatever. It's just like, we cannot stay away from each other. And that's, anyways, what's interesting though, is that like, it reminds me, like in real life, it's a cool concept, because in real life we're doing that. If you're dating a lot of people, you are running simulations. You're running these scenarios. You're seeing all these people. You're testing you against that. You're testing you against that. You're the whatever, the control, and they're the variables, right? What are they like? And so, anyways, and again, it's way more complicated when you're actually in it. But from the outside, ultimately, if you date, you test up. Okay, you're like, all right, well, that personality type doesn't really work with me, and maybe he does. Yeah. I'm just saying, if he doesn't, now you know. All right, well, that one's not going to work.
That's the thing too, is I've dated so much. Like, it's actually, I feel like I've dated more than the average person, like out of control dating.
Oh, so, really?
Yeah.
How many different dudes do you think you've gone on a date with? Not even had sex with, just gone on a legit, so not even a friend date. You come up with a ballpark? 1,000?
Gosh. No, 1,000 seems like too many. Like, that sounds crazy.
Yeah. 500?
Because I've only been single probably for like a good, this is the thing. I did a lot in maybe 3 years.
Okay.
So.
Well, like in 3 years, there's 365 days in a year.
Okay.
How, on average, like once a week, twice a week?
Yeah, at least twice a week.
2 different guys.
Yeah.
Not like, okay.
Well, in the last year, that's why it's so crazy that right now, because I do feel like I've dated so much, that this person specifically is someone that I'm like, oh, this is something that I for sure want something with.
Yeah. Okay.
With him.
Okay.
But before, I never felt that, because I was always dating. I found a rhythm.
Were you doing, I'm curious about this, because I never dated. I was never a dater. I like 3 girls. I had 3 serious total relationships. One of them is my wife. Yeah. And so I'm curious, like, when you're dating, is there any part of you that's like kind of taken, like, are you calculating like that, don't like that, like, and coming together with sort of a dream guy?
I guess that's the problem. I think that is the problem that happens, is you date so much that you know what you want and what you don't like, so you're just so like you know too much. Yeah, that becomes a problem. Yeah, because it's hard to meet someone and you're just like, oh, I can't, you're like that person or this person, or this is a trait that I already know I don't like, and then you like move on. And then that's also with how it is now, because dating nowadays is, dating apps and you're easily can have a date tomorrow night. If I like, you can look and be like, all right, I'm have tomorrow off, let me see if I can meet someone. Yeah, it's that crazy that it's accessible like that. How do you know what you don't like if you're not with them that long? Well, I usually give people way too many chances. But when you're on that rhythm you were on, well, I would. It's the thing is, I didn't really have a lot of time, but I would try to normally. I would probably be talking to like 3 different people at the same time. So then I would go on dates with people maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Very casual. And I'm not like having sex with them. It's just kind of like
getting to know them.
Yeah, getting to know them.
Yeah.
And
you never felt like somebody really grabbed you, like along the way, and it just didn't work out for some other random reason?
There was definitely people that I had good things that I loved about them, and I'm like, oh, I want this to work. Mm-hmm. And he seems like a really good, genuine person, and we have a lot in common. Yeah. And then dating, but then there was always something like you would still hang out, and then you would feel like, I feel awkward, or I haven't. Our conversation's not flowing, and it was like I was trying too hard to make things work with certain people.
Seems complicated.
Yeah. So it's nice.
That's interesting. Yeah, the serial dating thing is I think I don't know. I guess it's just new. It's new territory for humans. It's tough. Yeah. You know, we don't really know how to shake it out. You kind of in the. This is a brand new thing.
It's so brand new. I think it's like has to be the last 3 years, maybe 3 years.
5 to 7.
That like
Tinder.
That stuff is actually like, oh, that's okay and that's normal. Yeah. Because I do remember when I got out of my serious relationship, which was like 5 years ago, and then I got on like OkCupid. Yeah. Which was on that's like not an app. It was an app back then. Yeah. And,
but it was just like a dating service.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
But I didn't. Pre-app. I thought it was like sad. I was like, this is so sad.
Oh, I remember
like
that.
This is like if you really, you can't find someone. But now I'm like, oh no, that's what every single person does.
I think if somebody's looking for commitment, I do think I have advice. I don't like giving advice, but I do think
I want some advice.
I do think there's a couple things I've done well. And I would say the best thing I've ever done is my wife. What we got. That's like the only. If I died now, I could hang my hat that I kind of did something. Everything else is a series of failures, but or
killing it.
Almost or soon to be successes, maybe just nothing. But this is, I would already call it a success.
Yes, for sure.
And I think, unfortunately, it's what I think could work is very simple. But I say unfortunately just because it's like, I don't know how many people will take it seriously. Mm-hmm. But I think if you write out what you want in a person very clearly. Yeah. And then make an agreement with yourself that you're really looking for that. And then and again, I don't know, this is just what worked and what I've seen worked, hyper honest up front with what you want in life, but not in a weird way, but when it comes up. And I guess the only reason I can say is because like I did that a few times, and then what it made me do is it made me improve to be the type of guy I thought could get that girl. Because what I wrote down on paper, I was not ready for, and not just that she was beautiful, all those everything. Like you write down their physical traits, of course, but you write down every part of their the part of their personalities that you really like, the part of how they see the world that you really like, and it's not to duplicate you. We most of us wouldn't write just a copy of us, and we would write some other set of traits, that a balancing set of traits. Anyway, you just write it down. That's a brainstorm thing. You can even change over the course of 3 months and look at it. I think if you do that, though, in my experience, what happens is A, that's nice, helps you clarify people out the gate. B, it starts to affect how you operate, because you start thinking, could I be that's an awesome person, and what do I need to fix about myself to be able to gather that person into my life? And that might be the best thing, because then you end up improving. You end up starting to increase the amount of people that are attracted to you. Really high level. You just level up, and they're giving you the time of day. Because when I met my wife, she's an unbelievable human being, and if I met her 3 years before, no way it would have ever worked out. Well, first of all, she was in high school, but I mean, like, just who she was when I met her. If a earlier version of me met that girl, she wouldn't have given me the time of day. I wouldn't have been worth it.
It definitely is timing, because I do feel like even this whole entire time that because I had always been in relationships for since maybe 5 years ago, but then I was kind of like in an off and on relationship with someone for like 2 years. So I never actually wanted anything. So I was dating for the experience and for just meeting and enjoying people and like having a good time. Right. But
I think that's ultimately that's usually what's happening. And that's why love isn't found. It's because you really aren't looking for it.
You're not.
At all.
And then you realize, and that's the thing too, when I was like realizing with other people that, this is that for everyone. And I think for me is I finally made I don't know what I did, but I think I was finally felt like, oh, I'm actually ready, and
now you're looking.
Now, like, I'm ready to like give someone my time and actually effort and this, and like it basically barely hit me, and I don't even know. And then I was like also like I am, but then I also wasn't. Like I'm like if I'm going to spend my time with someone, it's going to be with someone that I really want to be with. But also I'm not looking because I'm so happy and busy and doing stuff that I'm doing right now.
Right.
Which now that's how I met this guy, and now I feel like I'm putting a lot into it, and also I do care, and there's like all these characteristics that I love about this person that I'm like, oh, this could actually work.
I do think there's a pretty one-to-one relationship between your intention and what ends up happening. So if you're 80% ready, then you're going to get about an 80% ready relationship. You know what I mean? It's going to be about 80% cooked. I think. That's how, because why not? Because both sides are always reading each other. I've seen this a lot too. And it's only because I had the psychotic mentality of I'm ready. And so now everything else it looks different to me. So I look at it like more from an outside. I analyze it because I've never been, when I was ready, when I saw Betsy, my wife, not that Betsy, it was one, and I told her it was the third date. I said, hey, just so you know, if I'm dating to marry. I was on the third date. And I was like, so I wasn't saying I'm going to marry you, but I'm saying, just so you know, if this goes well, we're getting married. And so we got married because in her head, she was like, awesome. She had that mentality too. Yeah. But if it wouldn't worked, if she didn't like that, then it would have been over within the next 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Because that would have freaked her out. Yeah. My point is, both sides are always looking at each other's intentions, non-verbally and verbally. And I've seen other people that are like in a relationship, like they're committed to each other because they're not fucking other people. But what they're really watching is how committed. Are you ready to die with me? That's a level that, and people watch that. And a career thing is a big one, because if they see you making concessions for your career or decisions on your time that don't include them, then that's a subtle cue that you're at 70% or 80%. Yeah. Because I don't think a marriage can necessarily work, or a permanent relationship can necessarily work with anything else more important than it. I don't know if that works. Even a career. Yeah. I think a career will, but I still think you can have a good long-term, like a permanent relationship if you want that, and a really successful career. But I think if anything's above it, including kids, career, it will eventually start to weaken. And that's where I think you get marriages that fizzle, is you just start getting more interested in other things. You're just more passionate about them. And then all that early idea of a commitment becomes way less interesting. You're not giving as much time. I've even seen it tempting with my wife. It's like, it's so easy to see the temptation of, I have her. I don't need to do anything to get her. And we know each other so intimately. It's like, we started this studio, we're doing comedy, we're meeting all these cool people. My life is pretty full now. I can easily not need to come home and spend time with her out of need. You know what I mean? So I have to make sure I'm still coming home and we're spending that quality time together that we always would have if I sort of needed it because nothing else was going on. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's where it gets a little ugly, because it's like, if I don't need you anymore and I treat you that way, I think shit can go haywire real quick. But I think people look at that in the beginning too. You don't need me that much. Yeah. You can take it or leave it. You like me, we're together, but you can I can feel that you take it or leave it. And I think that people are like, why isn't it working out? It's like, that's why. It's because both of you won't reach out and say 100. Yeah. You know, because you don't want to get hurt, which I get.
Well, in this relationship, I actually was very honest, and I said, I'm looking for something serious. I'm not looking for like a real relationship that this is going to be. So if this is not what you're looking for, I said that so many times, and I think,
oh, that's good.
Yeah. So I put it out there.
So now you have
way.
One.
And it just worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing too, is in the beginning, I also didn't care. I'm like, I'm not going to bend over backward. If someone can fit in my life, it's just going to work out. And in the beginning, would be like, okay, meet me at 12:30 a.m. after my show, or if you want to pick me up from my show.
Right.
And
you're second place or third, maybe.
Like you could, but you're not there yet. Yeah. But now I'm like, oh, cool. Like you're someone that supports me in what I do, and also like makes me feel good about what I'm doing, and that's nice.
It's also really hard because I say all that, but it's like all that requires a tremendous amount of risk, because if you're operating that way, you are going to open yourself up to getting hurt bad, and we all know that feeling, and that's why people go 80%.
Play it really cool.
I don't want to get hurt, and I get that, and I don't really have a good answer for that one yet. I think I got lucky that I did get hurt, for the record, before her, so it's not like I haven't tasted it, but I did get lucky that I didn't. Like, if I'd have tried that with my wife, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to blah, 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 and shoot for the moon, and then if I got hurt again, maybe I'd be changing my tune a little bit. Like, hey, you got to be a little more casual. So, I don't know. I can't judge the process. Everybody goes, we all got to play it however we feel comfortable. But I do think that's the variable. If you can psychologically handle the idea of getting hurt endlessly, that's the best way to find love, I think.
For sure.
Like a permanent
Because then
thing.
you don't... When you are playing it too cool, then you end up dating people for way too long, wasting time for both of you. Yeah. And that's what ends up happening, playing it safe.
Yeah, hey. Yeah.
And that's what I feel like.
Instead of ending it quick, maybe is the other better thing.
Yeah. And being honest with what you really want. Because maybe in a lot of the relationships, I was really hurt. So I think maybe that's why I was so like casual, and I can date 3 or 4 people, and because I need my space and I don't want to get close to someone. Right. So. Yeah. I don't know.
But I mean, I think those are the variables. I think the best way to start is know what you're looking for. If you're trying to be, I think the best thing is just ask yourself what the fuck you want right now. That's a key thing, man.
Honest.
With your, and then write it down and be clear. But I don't know. That's also a lot of work too. Maybe people just want to not think about it too much. I don't know.
I guess, but you just have to force yourself. And just being honest, because even like a year ago, I wasn't looking for anything. And I think I would lie to myself, be like, yeah, I'm looking for something. And I'm like, no, you're really not. Right. That's not cool either to do that, because then you're leading people on because you think you are, but your motives are showing otherwise. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got Mike waiting to hang out and chat some studio stuff.
Oh, okay. You do?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the podcast, though? The studio? And how this came about?
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Me and Mike Masilotti, a good buddy of ours and a comic. Yeah. We basically, with this, so we're comedians, and we all know each other from LA. That's how we all met. We just had... we started like a sketch group with a bunch of our friends. We were trying to make like sketch comedy videos and start a podcast with all of our friends that also moved down from Seattle, a bunch of comics, about 6 or 7 of us. And Mike was actually he was kind of on the edge of things. He was always trying to build a kind of a home studio for that podcast. And he was always spending the money to get mics like these and, little improvements here and there. And it just kind of, I don't know, it's a long story, but what ended up happening is we had a decent enough studio in his apartment. And it was pretty cool. Like, it was in the corner, and the way we had the cameras, like, it didn't look like it was in an apartment. It looked like it was a studio because of the way we framed it. And then at some point, and we were always working together on, like, sketch stuff, and just me and him were trying to sort of team up to do things with comedy. And at some point, he just was like, dude, we should rent. Like, we should try to get a place and rent the studio. It's kind of his idea, because people were asking him, hey, your studio's dope. Can I would pay you to use it. And he would be like, oh, it's in my apartment. You can't, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. They didn't know it wasn't they didn't know it was an apartment. So that gave him the idea, is like, I think people would pay money for just to use this, like what I have. So then he was like, and then it turned into a real full-fledged business idea. Like, let's actually throw down money and make it dope and have it flawless, which is what, you're not trying to brag or anything, but that's what it is. Like, we spent the money there's not any goofy mics. There's no like one's good and one's not that good. We spent all the money, made it, opened business in June of 2019, and nothing happened. And it was like and meanwhile we're being comics, like we're just living that life. But and then we just hustled on it for like the next 2 months, I guess. And then in August, all of a sudden things just started picking up. Enough people started to get interested. And, September, Lorraine Lopez came around, and people just like, we started with our friends in comedy, trying to throw out deals, like trying to throw out discounts to anybody who's in stand up. And we're in LA and everybody in the world wants a podcast, and it's turning into, it's becoming insanely successful. And my wife had a huge part of it because she handled essentially the internet side of it.
Yeah.
She helped us create the website. She helped figure out analytics on Google, which is everything.
Wow.
I mean, it's as old as 299, but if you don't understand it, you're a little screwed. So she figured all that out, and now when you Google Podcast Studio LA, odds are you're going to see us in like some of the top hits.
Oh, nice.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
So it's going good. You know, if you want to record a podcast, come out. It's look us up, thirdwheelpodcaststudio.com. I think we do a good job.
It's
Prices
amazing.
are fair.
No, I love it. This is seriously unbelievably wonderful.
Thank you.
Seriously. I don't know if you can't talk
That's awesome.
Yes. No, it really is. It's like cozy, and it looks insanely amazing. It's so professional.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And also, you guys killing it. I mean, I love just working with you.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
We love
very
working
much.
with you too. Yeah, that's been the fun thing too, is just like we are making friends in LA and have been the whole time. And this is just helping us connect even more. And we like that we have something that has value. Like, we like that I'm making my livelihood off of this. I'm proud of that. Like, I get to tell Betsy she gets to work less, things like that. And I'm proud of that stuff. But I'm also just excited that I have something that gives me a reason to like make friends, you know, like be like, come by my studio and I get to know you guys better. Instead of, you know, I don't know. So that's been the other fun part, is just connecting with everybody. And there's a lot of really cool people. A lot of our friends come through, and we get to have something that's valuable and also meet people that are way out of our range socially because we have it. So a lot of that's just been cool, just meeting people and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you. This is fun. It's good to be on. Can't help but wonder how it's looking the whole time.
Right. I'm like, I don't even want to look. It's so weird. That's like a thing too. When I'm at a restaurant, there's a mirror. I'm like, I can't. I'm so uncomfortable right now. They're like, this is LA. Everyone wants to look at themselves. You're like, no, not really.
Yeah. We don't want to. We have to. Yeah.
All right. So are we wrapping up?
Yes, wrap it up.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. You gave great love advice and life lessons. I did write a list. I had a list. So.
Oh yeah, you know?
I know.
That's good. So as soon as you're ready, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Even if it's this guy.
I think it's this guy.
Then maybe you already found it.
We'll see next week.
Yeah.
Let's see if he broke up with me by next week. Let's see, guys. I'm always scared.
Then you'll update your list.
I'm like, did I do something wrong? Because probably did. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been really fun.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yes. And thank you guys for listening, watching to Lorraine Lopez Loves. This week, Nolan Culver. All right.
Peace.
Yes. Bye.
Boop, boop.